Happy Tuesday. We are here with another Tea and Talk Tuesday with Latonia. Welcome to the show, y'all. Yes, this is January, and we have been focused on New Year, new goals. Ask yourself, should you have new goals? Do you have new goals? At any rate, we're having our tea and talk today, and my mug is with God, all things are possible. All things are possible with God. Matthew 19 and 26. I don't want to say it's crazy, but the interesting thing about it is a lot of times people focus on the all things are possible and they act like they ain't got to do nothing about it. Like, God, you going to do it and I'm just going to sit here and receive. That's not how it works. You have to do some work to receive. Lazy people, yeah. I don't know if y'all know this, but when people say if a person don't work, they don't eat, that came from the Bible. Yeah, it did. So you got to do something. At any rate, we're still sticking with these questions. New year, new goals. And what we're going to talk about today is, can we get real? Can we get real? Have you thought about how much this will cost you? Have you thought about how much this is going to cost you? A lot of times we get really excited about the goal. Matter of fact, that's probably one of the reasons why some of us didn't get the goals reached, because we like, I ain't know what's gonna cost me all that. Here's the thing. When people say cost, they automatically go to dollars and cents. And yes, there is a cost to running a business. Yes, there is a cost to starting a business. There's a cost to weight loss journeys. There's a cost to anything you can think about as a goal. Just about every goal, there's a cost to it financially, right? But the reality is that there are also other costs that we have to consider. But most of the time when we make our list, we don't think about the cost. We just go, look, I'm losing weight next year. Or I'm starting my business next year. And they think, okay, I'm going to tell y'all something real quick. There's something that I talk about in my book called Am I a Entrepreneur? There's something in my book that I talk about entrepreneur. And oftentimes people think because they're doing business things that they have a business and they're an entrepreneur, but they're really not. Okay. I'm not going to get into that today. I think if you want to know more, this is what you should do. You should go ahead and get the book. MissionRichAndProfitPower.com. Just go ahead and get the book. If you want a signed copy, go to my website directly, MissionRichAndProfitPower.com. You can also get it on Amazon and other places as well. But there's a reason why people don't succeed. And I always talk about that 20% number. That 1 in 5 people or 2 in 10 people that start a business is not going to have their business in 5 years. That's really a big deal. And there's a lot of reasons why. And some of these things, many of these things we're talking about this month, because if you don't start the year off right with the right mindset to think strategically about how you're going to move forward and actually accomplish goals, then you have to ask yourself, why is it on your list? That's why I asked you, what happened? Why is something on your list and it was on your list the year before or years before? It's been continual years and it's still on your list. Why is it still on your list? Is it because you're not doing anything differently, but you're expecting a different result? Is it because you're not willing to invest in what it is that you need to do so that you can achieve the goal? Is it because you didn't write it down and you're just not paying attention to it? Because life is doing what it does and you're just doing what you do, going with the flow of life. There's so many reasons to that. But the reality is once you get to a place where you've done like week number 1, where you've done like week number 2, because now we're going into week number 3, and I'm not going to talk about all the things we talked about in the last 2 weeks. But I want you to think about now, what is the cost? But in order to know what the cost is, you got to know there is a cost, right? You got to know that there's a time cost. There's a talent cost. There's a financial cost. There's a mental cost. There's an emotional cost. Sometimes there's a spiritual cost. Sometimes there's a health cost, right? What is it going to cost you to be able to do what it is that you have in your list. And when I say cost, I don't mean all the time that it's a deficit because sometimes there's a cost to something, but it's an investment. Sometimes people assume that when you say cost, it means that you're losing. If it's going to cost me uh, $40 a month to go to the gym, then I'm not doing it because I probably ain't gonna go anyways. People start talking themselves out of it before they even get to it. $40 is not even a lot of money. But the reality is if you are that intentional that you're like, hey, I want to be healthier. I know going to the gym is a part of that. I'm one of those people that if I don't go to the gym, I'm probably not working out. Like I have a treadmill at home, I have videos at home, I have all kind of stuff. But the reality is when I'm most consistent is when I get myself up in the morning and go to the gym. That's when I'm most consistent. I'm carving out time and I'm saying, for this space of time, this is what I'm going to do. What is it costing me? My sleep. It's costing me to be more disciplined. I might not be able to watch that show on TV because I got to go to bed so I can get up in the morning so I can go to the gym. But if I don't write it down and have it down as part of my schedule for the week, I'm not doing it. I will tell you, sure as I'm sitting here, if I don't have that gym on my schedule for next week, I ain't going. It just happens because something else is going to take place and something else is going to feel like more of a priority than what I have on my calendar because it's not there. So when I put it there, then I have to follow through and make sure the second part of that cost is being consistent. I have one class on my calendar that I have not been to since I went the first time. Okay, one exercise class. And it was great when I went, but I didn't go back because realistically, it wasn't on the time of my schedule that I could actually commit to it. But I put it there thinking if I put it here, I'll make sure I go. No, there's the part A of putting it there so you can do it. But the part B is make sure it's realistic if it's there. Okay. Don't put yourself when you know you got something else that's going to happen at the same time, and your mind is thinking it's got to do that other thing because this is what you normally do. And now, oh, but sometimes I could do that. No, it's just not going to happen. Be realistic. Okay. And then also commit to something you enjoy. So if you want to, so sticking on this whole thing about exercise and being healthy, if you don't like being on a treadmill, why is that your source or your thing that you're doing for exercise? Maybe you're somebody who should be not in another exercise machine because I was gonna say elliptical, but maybe you might want to do spin class because those are really fun. Spinning, cycling, whatever they call it nowadays, step class, Zumba classes, uh, walking the dog. Just saying, hey, I'll be the one to walk the dog. I'll walk the dog 3 times a week because I know that it'll help me get some exercise and get out of the house, right? So being intentional to find things that you enjoy doing. And I want you to take that and relate that to everything else that you do. Okay, whether it's personal in your life, whether it's business related, you want to be able to find a way to get it done. And however way, some things are not going to be fun. Like one of my kids, everything has to be fun. Like, no, everything's not going to be fun. But what it is that you have to prioritize. So if I know I need to get this thing that's not so fun done, that maybe only I can do or I have to do because it's part of the nature of getting to where I need to go, then maybe I'm getting that done first so I can get it out of the way. And then I can move on to the other thing, right? That I really enjoy doing. Or maybe I'm rewarding myself with the thing I really love doing after I do the thing I really hate doing because I have to do it, right? Or maybe it's one of those things that I get to delegate to somebody else that really loves to do it. I don't know, but you got to get it on the list and you got to count up the cost. Because if you count up the cost and you realize, hey, I hate doing this thing, plus it's costing me XYZ amount of time, and it's going to cost me actually half of that if I just pay somebody to do it, then maybe that's the answer, right? But if you don't write it down, you won't know that. And so it is, yes, frustrating for somebody to say to you that in order for you to actually move ahead, you have to sit down and find the time to strategize how to do it better. And yes, you can pay people to do it for you. There's done for you services, there's people that will do things for you. And that's fine if you're that person. If you have 5 or 10 businesses and you're like, look, I don't have time to be sitting down learning how to do all this stuff. I just want to pay somebody else to manage it, pay somebody else to run it, pay somebody else to. That is fine. But then you need a strategy to do that too. It's not just close your eyes and go to sleep and wake up in the morning and you're good. You still got to have a strategy. Because if you don't, you'll be like the people who didn't have a strategy, who have tax issues now because somebody was supposed to take care of stuff for them and they never did. And it's all in your name. All right, we're not going to go on that. Now, the other question is, did you count up the cost of your goals? Right? So the first thing is, did you count up the cost? The second thing is, did you count up the cost of each of your goals? So most of the time, people don't know there's a cost, so they don't count it up. They don't think about it. They don't think about the sleep deprivation sometimes that you have to experience. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. One thing that I've learned consistently on every single podcast that I've listened to, every single speaker, every single book that I've read, where they talk about how they became successful, I've never read a book where somebody said it happened overnight. I've never read a book where somebody said it just happened that way. Now, if you're born to it, I ain't talking about you. I'm talking about people who worked to get where they are in life. Nobody has ever said it happened overnight. There's a consistency, there's a persistence, and there's an intentionality that you have to put forth. But that doesn't mean at the expense of your health or at the expense of your close relationships or your marriage or your children, right? There's a balance that you can find in that. But the reality is, you have to first think about, what is it going to cost you? You have to know, like, consciously, I'm like, look, I get up earlier in the mornings. I plan certain things a certain way in my week. I know my husband is off on Monday, so I plan to be off on Monday so I can at least see him, spend time with him, plan with him, strategize with him. What are we doing for the ministry? What are we doing for our own businesses? What are we doing with the kids? What are we doing together? Right? All of those things we have to talk about, because Sundays is really church and ministry stuff. And so Mondays are really the only day that we have that no interruptions. We can plan it how we need to plan it to be in connection and within relationship with one another, right? I understand that in order for me to do that, there's a cost. So I work on Saturdays. It's no big deal for me. I work on Saturdays. I know people who will never work on a Saturday, but guess what? Their husbands aren't off on Mondays. So I do what I need to do to make sure, and I count up the cost. I'm okay with that because that's what I want. I value the benefit that I'm going to receive more than I value the fact that I have to work on a Saturday. Okay, so what is it going to cost you doesn't mean that it, like I said earlier, doesn't mean it's a deficit. It just means I have to be aware that this is something that is necessary. I have to be aware that I have to plan for it. And the more that I plan for it, the better equipped I will be to handle it. The more that I strategize for it, the better that I will understand how to get and maximize what I can get out of it. If I am wanting to do a task, like recently, and I've said this multiple times on our Team Talk Tuesdays, and often on my live streams or my posts, that the way to get to something quickly is to learn from somebody who's already done it. There's no need in me suffering and struggling. Now, people with high self righteousness and full of selfish pride, foolish pride, they don't like asking questions. They try to just do it themselves. I'm not that person. I will ask you in a minute. I will invest in a minute. I will pay you for an hour of your time in a hot minute to understand how did you do something so that I can do it and not have to spend hours, weeks, months, decades trying to figure it out. There's some things that I've learned in 2 minutes from somebody. I might have paid them $150 for the hour to sit with them, but I learned it in 2 minutes and it saved me thousands of dollars because I would have had to spend wasted time trying to figure it out myself. I understood that I was investing in that information because they put in whatever they put in to get it. Why do I expect to get it for free? I'm okay. I count up the cost. I plan for that. I know in my schedule what it is that I need to do, what skills I need to develop, or what skills that I need for my goal to be accomplished. So if I don't have the skill, I got to find it. And if I find it, I'm going to pay for it. Now, I'm not saying people don't do things for me at no cost or complimentary or pro bono. There's definitely times that people discount rates for me because, maybe, I'm doing some work for them and now they're doing some work for me kind of thing. That's fine. Barter and exchange and all of that is fine. But my point is, I know there's a cost to it. And I also know that if somebody's not charging me today, they're going to need something tomorrow. Right. So sometimes I'm like, I want to just pay you now so I can be done with this, but it don't always work out that way, depending on who it is. And to be honest, even if I did Even if I did pay them and they asked me, I probably would still try to see how I could help because that's just the nature of how I move. But I said that to say, count up the cost. Know what it's going to take. Know the time, the commitment, and you may underestimate. I like to overestimate because then if it gets done quicker, I'm great. Like I told somebody I was going to get them a proposal today, and I thought it was going to take me 2.5 hours to do it, maybe 2 hours max. It took me half an hour. So it was real easy. I was like, wow, that's super cool. Took me a lot, less time than I thought. So it was good to block off time and say, hey, it might take me about 2 hours. I don't know why I thought it was going to take me 2.5 hours, but when I started working on it, I'm like, I think I made it more complex in my mind. Anyways, I digress. So, what will you do now? Is the question. What will you do now? Now that you know there's a cost, now that you know there's an expectation, that there's a value that you have to bring to the table or that you have to sacrifice something, what are you going to do about it? Like, is that goal still something in mind? Know this, the importance and the value of being able to see something and start to strategize around it is that once you count up the cost, you can be very realistic about what you can and can't do at a certain time frame. Now, I'm not saying God won't breathe on it and things won't get done sooner, because that recently happened to me and I can't wait to tell y'all the whole story of it. But there definitely will be times that if you're prepared and you're ready to execute, things can go much quicker, right? That's why I'm very strong about having your executive summaries together and things like that, which I talk a lot about in my book Mission Rich and Profit Powered, and also in Mission Rich Academy. I teach about that a lot too, because I really want people to understand the importance of the strategy, the importance of having things ready to go, because you never know when an opportunity is going to present itself. Now, once I know the goal, and this is the next part of it, and I know what the cost of it is, then I can be realistic about the timeline, right? So, for example, if I set this goal, and believe me, I'm going to get it soon. But I set this goal that with our nonprofit, we want to have a village, a literal village, literal. But before we could get the village, we had to have a building, because you want to have a building first. Before you have a building, you got to have a suite that you can manage, right? Before you can have a suite that you can manage, you have to have a room that you can manage. Before you can even have the room, you have to be able to run programming and know that you're going to be true to the mission, and you have people that are going to support the mission, love the mission, value the mission, and fight for the mission just as much as you do on your team. And literally, I'm bringing you backwards from what the goal was that I have. And when I tell you that I'm almost to the goal, because I did those steps, I looked at this is what it's going to need to be. So let me backtrack. Let me take the steps to backtrack to see, okay, what do I need to do first? Because the goal, you might want to be a real estate mogul, but you don't wake up and become a real estate mogul. You start somewhere. So where do I need to start? You set the goal, you count up the costs, you start backtracking. Here are the things that I need in order to get there, right? And now you will have what you need as you go, because you're counting up the costs and you're being realistic, and you have the right people on your team. As we talked about strong teams last week, strong networks. You made the list, you put it down. It's something that you want to do. You understand what it's going to take to execute. Okay. So that is all that we have for today, because we are reaching our time limit. Next week, we're going to have another conversation as we wrap up New Year, new goals. I'm so excited to have that conversation with y'all. It's been a great start to our January Tea and Talk Tuesdays, and I look forward to hearing from y'all. If you have any questions, you want to chat with me, hit me up in a DM. We could set up a complimentary call for me to learn more about what you need and what we can do to support you at Monroe Naylor Consulting, because that is what I like. I like to educate, and I like to support, and I like to help folks to transform their passions into fully funded businesses. I've done it. I've seen it. I've been blessed to have ups and downs along the process and have some really great mentors and coaches along the way. And I look forward to doing the same with you. And so with that, I want to remind you to follow us on social media. Y'all, I can't sing. I know that. My daughter can sing though. Maybe one day I'll have her come up here. If y'all ask me, I will bring her. Y'all gotta put it in the comments though. I don't want to see y'all just assuming I'm gonna do it. I want you to ask for it. and I'll bring her on to let her sing a little bit for y'all. And I do have a rapper too. I might have her come on and spit some bars. So we'll see. We'll see. But you better ask for it. You better show me some interaction that you're paying attention to what we say over here on Tea and Talk Tuesdays with Latonia. All right, y'all. Have a good rest of your day. God bless you.